Okay, we have 4 points here, A, B, C, and D, on our polar axis. So just in review, this angle here is pi over 6, this is pi over 4, this is pi over 3, and this is a radius of 3. So my A, if I draw in here it gets ugly, A, comma, pi over 3. B, this is also the pi third angles, because here is pi, this is 11 pi 12s, I guess, but we don't really care about pi over 12s. This is 5 pi 6, 3 pi 4s, 2 pi thirds, and my radius is 3. So this is 3 comma 2 pi thirds. I'm not too sure why I have A there. Let me fix that. And again, here's another pi third angle that's in the third quadrant. So this is right here, this is 7 pi 6, 5 pi 4s, and then this is 4 pi 3s. So my radius is 3 and my angle is 4 pi thirds. And then this is the pi thirds angles in the fifth quadrant, fourth quadrant, no such thing as the fifth quadrant, which is also a radius of 3 and 5 pi over 3. So I just want to match up these points here with A, B, C, and D. So 3 comma 2 pi thirds, that's clearly B, so that's B. Here I have negative 3 comma 4 pi thirds. So 4 pi thirds puts me in this point down in the third quadrant. Since it's negative 3, that puts me back 180 degrees away in the first quadrant, so that would be A. 3 comma negative 5 pi thirds, so negative 5 pi thirds puts me right around here in this direction in the first quadrant. Since my radius is positive, I stay at that point, so that would be A. So just notice that these 2 points here were not the original ways that I wrote these angles. I just wrote these in the basic format, but notice that there are many different ways to represent any point on the polar axis. So notice that A was originally 3 comma pi thirds, but it could be negative 3 comma 4 pi thirds. So there is an infinite number of ways that I can represent this point, as opposed to on the coordinate axis when you have 2 comma 2 over 2 up 2. There's only one way to represent that point. With polar axis, there's many ways to represent a point, because your radius can be positive or negative, and then your angles can be positive or negative or coterminal or anything like that. Okay, here's the same 4 points again, just some more examples down here. Do we need to match up with it? So the first one is, again, whenever I have a negative radius, I like to do the angle first. So pi over 3 goes to here. So since it's negative 3, I go 180 degrees. That puts me down in the third quadrant. So that would be letter C. Negative 2 pi thirds goes over into the third quadrant. And negative 3, 180 degrees puts me back into the first quadrant. So that's letter A. And then 8 pi thirds is going to be 6 thirds pi plus 2 thirds pi. So that's just going to be in the second quadrant. So that's going to be letter B. And our last one is negative 11 thirds pi. So a negative 11 thirds pi is the same as negative 6 thirds pi minus 5 thirds pi. So this is just an extra rotation here. So negative 5 pi thirds puts me around in the first quadrant. Since it's a negative radius, that puts me back into the third quadrant. So that would be letter C.